back to our Last 30 podcast. We have another guest here with us. I'll go ahead and let Dr. Fred introduce him for us.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you guys for joining us again. Again, this is our new endeavor, our new opportunity for us to connect. And the whole idea behind this, Mr. Peace, is just for us to talk to other men about that perspective of life, death, and everything in between. And really just want to get that perspective from other men in some of the questions we have. So thank you for being here. It's an honor. And Mr. Peace is a mentor of mine, and I reached out to him and asked him if he would mind, and he said he would. And what I didn't know, and we found out this morning as we drove in, is today's his birthday. Yeah. So happy birthday, and thank you for taking time. And you said a beautiful thing. You said that every day that you wake up is a birthday, right? And
every day.
I think it's beautiful. So do you mind, introducing yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and then you also said there's a special connection to Ferris, Texas. Tell us all about that.
Yeah. I'm Derryle Peace. I'm native Dallasite, born. I have no issues with telling my age. Born May 3rd, 1952. So I am 72 years old today. And so I grew up in Dallas near Loveville Airport. I'm at an age where I grew up in segregated schools, first through the 8th grade. As a matter of fact, I passed two schools that I eventually went to because the law of the land at that time was I could only go to school with people who looked like me. So I went to an all segregated school from 1st to the 8th grade. I actually went to high school as an 8th grader because in Dallas there were only two junior highs that I could attend. One was in West Dallas, the other was in South Dallas. What they did was made Booker T. Washington, which now is the Arts Magnet School. It became junior high as well.
Wow.
So I went there as an 8th grader. Schools desegregated, and I made the choice to go to school closer. And I can remember going home and telling my grandparents who raised my brother and I that I'm going to Rusk next year. T.J. Rusk. It's on Inwood. And their question was, why? I said, well, here's the deal. I'd gone to my elementary school for 7 years in my own neighborhood. We knew everybody. And all of a sudden, as an 8th grader, I had to go to school in another neighborhood. First time I ever experienced turf. They didn't like us, even though we looked just like them. And so my comment then, even as an 8th grader, is that at least when I go to Rusk, I know what the enemy looks like, because right now the enemy looks just like me. And so I went to Rusk, ended up going to North Dallas High School. My basketball coach, who was at my junior high, became a basketball coach in high school. Great man. He talked about East Texas State University. I ended up going there. Went there in high school on the basketball tryout. They didn't offer a scholarship and said, okay, you can mark on. But they had the coach at that time was the Bobby Knight style, and my coach was like, he just told you what to do, and you do it. No screaming. And so I went to, make the long story short, I went to East Texas State then, went 5.5 years, got 2 degrees, moved to Corsicana, moved back to Dallas, and eventually ended up at the university in 2004 and retired in May of last year.
2023?
Yeah, 2023.
So just shy of 20 years.
Yeah, it was 19 years and 8 months. 225 months.
So when you were at East Texas State University, now we know it as Texas A&M University of Commerce, what year was that, and what was the climate?
1970. I went there as a freshman in 1970. I chose to do that rather than go to an HBCU. I didn't want to go to UNT because most of my friends were going there. I wanted something different.
Yeah.
And so I went, I was familiar with East Texas only because I'd gone up and spent a weekend. And so I thought, the same challenges that I'm facing out in the world, I'm going to face here.
That's right.
My high school counselor said, you really shouldn't go to college because you're not college material. And I found out just maybe 2 months ago, one of our alums who's white, we become good friends, she asked me about that counselor. And I told her, she told me the same thing. I thought, wow. So it's a great run. I enjoyed what I did for a living, but I commuted. I lived here in Dallas and I commuted, and it just, at some point in time, I just wanted to get off the road, and it was time.
About an hour commute one way.
Yeah, exactly. And coming home, more than that.
You said that before we were chatting before the podcast that you had a special connection
Yeah.
to Ferris, Texas,
Yeah,
and that's
Ferris.
where we're
Yeah.
filming today. Can you share what that connection is?
Yeah. My mom died when I was 4 years old. Mom and dad went together, and so my mom was buried in the cemetery in Ferris, George Washington Carver Memorial Cemetery. Mother, grandmother, grandfather, and my aunt are all buried side by side. And so when I come this direction, I always go and make a visit. And when I lived in Corsicana, before I always jumped off the interstate and went by the cemetery and spent a little time with them. And so,
Beautiful.
yeah. So this is not new territory for me. I'm familiar
With this community.
With this community. Yeah.
Yeah, and it does have an interesting past, and you see also this part of the world how populations and whole communities live and then move.
Yeah.
And largely my understanding of South Dallas and even southern, more southern where we're at, it was largely African American. And those trends have started to move towards more Latino, Hispanic populations. And so we see that happening, I would imagine, in other parts of the United States, but it's definitely happening here in Dallas. In fact, the community where we live and where we film is the former African American community here in Ferris, is my understanding. And it's indicative with the many African American churches that fill our every street here.
That's why I'm coming here.
Yeah. And really, really great community we get to live in, and very kind to my family, and have even dropped off meals and invite us to church, and the kids really, really enjoy it. So who did you grow up with? You were raised by your father, then, or
Brought up by my maternal grandparents, my mom's parents. And so my grandparents had 6 children, and my mom was the first to die. And they made a pact that, okay, you live with grandparents, but we will help be the village to make sure that you are raised and given the guidance that you needed. And what's so interesting, my grandparents had 26 grandchildren. So I had 24 cousins. And so, but every one of my cousins, because I am the 9th grandchild, all of the cousins came and stayed at our house at some point in time.
Wow.
And jokingly, we had a family reunion, and I jokingly said, "Oh, I changed all your diapers." And they said, "No, you didn't." And their mom said, "Oh, yes, you did." And so I had all this family that were either in my house on weekends, because of my age and I was a little older than most of the cousins. If they went out of town, I'm the one who went and stayed at their house and babysit. Uh, all my cousins are like my siblings.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, we've talked about this before. I had a medical issue, and I actually was on the phone talking to one of my cousins who lives in Wichita, Kansas, because he's like my brother. I have family in San Francisco, Wichita, Kansas, and in Connecticut. I had no real cousins, so I always went to cities, and I went to San Francisco as a kid in the
Wow.
summer. Each summer, I'd go to Wichita for a month. My cousin would come back because there were three boys. They would come and stay with us for a month, and then they'd have to separate us because five boys was bad, some bad habits. So yeah, so all my family chipped in, and so I used to ask my grandmother, "Who am I like? Who, who,
Yeah.
who, what, whose personality did I pick out?" And she said, "I think you're a combination of everybody." Yeah. And so I was um, with my mother dying when I was 4. I have memories of her, and people think at 4 you won't remember. Oh, yeah, you do. Yeah. And so I had an aunt at one gathering who said, "I worried about you because you cried all the time." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, you have to remember, I was a baby. I was 4. So yeah, I was grieving, and they never give it thought. They thought maybe he's 4, he won't remember,
Right.
but I did. And so grandparents raised me. Uh, they had some really distinct. I can't say they're unique rules in the house, and here they are. If you end up on Harry Hines and do the juvenile delinquent facility was so 4711 Harry Hines. I know the address. If you end up on Harry Hines, don't call me. I don't know you anymore. That means don't get in trouble. She said, if you get a girl pregnant, the baby can't live here, the girl can't live here, and you can't live here.
So we're clear.
Yeah, real clear. And well, a little saying whenever I left the house, they would say, always remember who you represent.
I love
Yeah, because in my neighborhood, everybody knew everybody. But I would eat dinner at different neighbors' houses. If I got home and I'm like, oh, I don't like that. I could call a neighbor. What'd you cook? And they'd say, I could so. You got enough for me? Yeah. Then, okay. Let me let you talk to my grandmother.
it.
And so
Wow.
our neighborhood was a true village. And actually, on the way here, one of my best friends called me. He's just want to wish me happy birthday. He's like my brother. Yeah.
Um, so again, thank you. And you mentioned that you had a medical issue,
Yeah.
and it's relevant to this conversation. The whole premise of our podcast is: could you envision being diagnosed or being told, or just a scenario that you're in your last 30 days
Yeah.
of life, or your last moments of life, and what that does to you, for you, and how does it impact? And so, can you share,
Oh, yeah.
did you have a similar type experience
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
it's not a scenario, but in fact real life?
Real life. June 21st, 2016, I was driving from Commerce going home. I got off the interstate to get gasoline, and it was so interesting. And God set this up because I drive 2 Camrys. One is now a 21-year-old, the other one is 11-year-old. And so just I drive the one that had gas. That one had gas.
Mm-hmm.
The one the 20 the newer one got Bluetooth. That played a key issue in that. And so I'm driving home. I call my wife two friends, my cousin, in Wichita, who's like my older brother. And so he called me back. And so we're talking on the phone, and I look up and I see $1.95 gasoline in capital G.
Say
So I
no more.
jumped off the interstate, and I'm notorious for not getting gas into the car seat.
I mean,
And
you do this, or I can do it.
yeah,
Someone's got to put gas in
yeah.
you.
And so I jumped off. Long story, but I'll make it, give you the short version. Got off the interstate, opened the door because I left the key on because I'm still talking to my cousin. Swiped my credit card, punched in that zip code. I'm like, dude, you put the wrong zip code in. I was having a stroke. Didn't do it. So I got back in the car. Didn't really know what was going on. So I'm self-diagnosing. I'm not, okay, not having a heart attack. And really, because I got a little woozy, I was thinking maybe I'm dreaming. And so what I didn't know is that I had a clot on my left hemisphere, and cognition, all of that, and imagination, sense of humor. I actually sat there and said, "Oh man, this is so cool. I like this." And my left brain kicked in and said, "Dude, you're in trouble." And so, how I knew I was really in trouble, I kept thinking, "Okay, am I dehydrated? Am I?" And there was I had a bottle of water in my lunch bag, so I was going to reach around and get it. I realized my right arm was paralyzed, so was my right leg. And so I thought then, okay, I'm in trouble. Because I'm talking to my cousin, I said, Pat, I'm in trouble. I have a medical emergency. I have no idea what's going on. And so I knew I needed help. And he couldn't help me. He's in Kansas. So because the key is on, I let the window down. Somebody to my right. And I try to say something. It comes out garble. And I heard it. I'm like, oh. And my cousin, he said, what's that? Because I could talk for a little bit, I said, I don't know. And out of my left, I could see this guy. And I let the window down. I waved frantically. So a young man came to my car. I thought I told him, he asked me, do you need help? I said, yes. He said, do you need to call 911? 911. I said, yes. So he gets the car. And so my right leg came back. So I knew that it's June. So I let the windows up. I can, yeah, I turned on the engine because I had to do it left hand because my right hand was no longer working. But here's what happened. I sat there. Um, I think I can do this without getting emotional because I've said it enough. But he's talking to my cousin and telling him what's going on. He's trying to help me, and my license was sitting there, so I gave him my license so he knew who I was. Um, um, I listened to him because my wife, I could still read a little bit because I didn't realize that I didn't recognize the zip code because I had lost the capacity to read. And so my wife's picture is on, and she's number one on my phone. So I touched it and showed it to him. And he said, is that Carolyn? He said, Carolyn, is that your wife? My cousin said, yep. He said, that's Carolyn. Don't worry about her. I'll call her. You take care of him. And what's so mm, so interesting and so what a blessing about that is that remember I called these two friends first, and I called him. If either one of my friends would have called back, they had no idea how to reach Carolyn. So I did. My cousin did, and he called her and said, "Look, here's the deal. Bill's got a medical emergency. If you get a strange phone call, you have to answer it because I don't know who's going to call you." So here's the real crux of it all. I sat there. I knew that I had done all I could do. and I made my peace with God because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know I was having a stroke. I knew something was seriously wrong, and I made my peace with God, and I asked for one thing. I said, if the day is the day I'm gonna die, just let me see my wife one more time. Yeah, I get a little emotional thinking about it, but there were times where I could never say that without crying, and so I sat there and I waited because I know that I'd done all I could do. God had answered my prayer. I had somebody in the car, and I just sat there and relaxed. Because said, okay, I don't know what's going to happen, but here I am. And so ambulance showed up. Actually, got out of the car, got in the ambulance. Long story, but I had a clot. They think that my heart had kicked off a piece of plaque because I have high cholesterol, genetic DNA. I take a statin drug, but the drug was apparently not working well enough, and so that was my near death experience. Here's what you may not know. I had another stroke last July. Yep.
After retirement.
Yeah. Retired May 31st. One of my friends, good friends, he's a judge. She had an 18-wheeler hit her on Interstate 20. You might have seen it on the news. And it, she was trying to get, she was coming over, so she sped up. And it was actually pushing her down the road. And so that happened that morning. And her sons or her godson, they called us. And so later that afternoon, I went. We went to see her at a church meeting at Zoom at 6. And so I told Caroline I can stay here and I come back and pick you up. She said, no, I'll go. And so we got home. I said, if you want to go back, you can. And she said, no, I'll just so you stay here. So I got on the Zoom call, got off the call, went back to where she was in the back, and was trying to talk to her. And the words that I was saying weren't coming out. They were different words. She said, say something again. And it wasn't gibberish. It just was not what I was trying to say. So we knew something was wrong. And the short version of this story is that had she stayed at her friend's, had she left me, I would have probably did what I did when I finished. I just got in the bed, and she sat right there with me, and she said, "I'm gonna give you 5 minutes." And maybe
Maybe 4.5.
yeah, maybe in 2 minutes, she said, because my anxiety was off the chart by the end, and she said, "You want to call 911?" I nodded because I was a little afraid to talk because it would freak me out even more. So I changed clothes. They took my blood pressure. It was high. I don't have high blood pressure. So it took me to within 45 minutes of this happening, because I know exactly when it happened. And I was at Baylor. I already had a CAT scan. They were already giving me the medication to clear up the clot, this one was called what they call an M2 stenosis, an artery between the right and left hemisphere. And the first symptom is it affects the speech. So I was there. I got admitted on Wednesday in critical. I was on the stroke unit. I did so well. They put me in a room on Thursday, and on Thursday morning, said, "Okay, Miss Peace, tomorrow you're out of here." And so I left there with no restrictions. But the first one was really much more severe because I had to learn how to talk again. My right hand was is still will always be affected because I can feel things with my right hand, but if I have to type with this finger. I can pick up hot, cold, rough, smooth. If you ask me, put something in my hand and ask me what it is, and I'm like looking at it, I don't know what it is. And if I drink anything with my right hand, it has to be a cup where I can put my fingers in it because I can't pick up a glass because my brain doesn't know how to squeeze and to And
so holding it tight enough or not.
Yeah. So the challenge for me now is I came preoccupied with death. I take meds because of anxiety. My brain will pick up clues that it doesn't recognize anymore. And for instance, if my anxiety is, I'm getting a little anxious and my chest is getting a little tight, that's anxiety. My brain says, no, dude,
Fight or flight kind of.
fuck that. And so I have to I wear watch that gives me, I can always see my heartbeat. I take my blood pressure once a day, even when I'm going through these anxiety periods. I did it last night because I was a little, what I call wonky. And so I took my blood pressure and said, okay, 116/69. I think I'm good. So I have to use medical devices to convince me I'm good. But I was definitely am still preoccupied with death, and I worry about that. And I think about it and question my faith. I know this is not forever. Death, death is inevitable. So the question is, what are you afraid of? And I've tried to rationalize what it is. Here's the only thing I've come up with: death is imminent, and when it comes, I won't be able to see the people that I love anymore. Yeah.
It's hard because our whole life I like to think that we're privileged and we're lucky we only know love.
Yeah.
And in the moments that we learned who to love more and who to love less, perhaps.
Yeah.
Who to trust and who not to trust. But life for those of us, I really want to think that it's been pleasant for those I know.
Yeah.
And if we know love, I also understand the the fear of not being able to love anymore. And some people fear not being loved. I think for us, we want to love. We love you. You talked about all you had was one wish. Just talk to your wife one last time.
And I joke about it. I said, she works my nerves sometimes. But I thought that was quite interesting. That's the only person that I said, let me say it one more time.
Can you talk about that a little bit and why all the wishes in the world, all the prayers, and or to be selfish at that moment, to give me 5 more years, whatever, however we negotiate. You ask just for a few more seconds, and you got it.
Just to see her. And what's so interesting is that they did call her, and when I ended up going from Cattle Mills to Rockwall, and when she got there, I'm in the ambulance. I know I'm having a stroke. They told me, and so I'm telling myself that whatever happens, don't you cry when she gets here. You man up. You don't cry when she gets here. As soon as I saw her,
No, sir.
I was a
No,
mess.
Mr. P.
I was a
No, you
mess.
did not.
I was a mess. She was too, because um, I am the I I am the crier in our family. I can watch TV and something just touches my heart, I'll cry. Yeah, and she accepts that's the way I am. Um, but I couldn't keep it together when I saw her, because it was probably because my wish was granted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How many times in life
yeah,
can we say that our wish
yeah,
was granted?
yeah. And I never gave that a thought that until right now. That could have been it, because I kept saying, do not cry. Keep her strong. When I saw her, I was done.
We talk about it all the time. The image of a man is to be strong,
Yeah,
and the image of a man is to protect, and all these um, unique perspectives and stereotypes or expectations,
yeah,
and sometimes to the detriment
yeah,
of
yeah,
who we are as fathers and husbands and brothers and community members. And can you talk a little bit more about that and
yeah,
on what that means for, you know, 19, 20, 30-year-old
yeah,
young men
yeah,
and, and, and the difficulty because we're still going to expect young men to man up,
yeah, yeah,
whatever that means.
yeah,
But we also want them to have that sense of vulnerability, right?
yeah,
And to ask for help. And
yeah,
so, can you kind of
yeah,
expand on that?
yeah. I can tell you, the young man who came to my rescue, I didn't know who it was. Um, had no idea. Um, I was in the hospital
How do
for,
you even have that? Side note, the foresight to be like, do you need help?
yeah,
Because otherwise, it's just like, I mean, it's a
well,
gas station.
yeah,
People are
yeah,
just,
yeah, well,
I'm not paying attention to stuff. Anyways.
yeah. I'm looking for him. I'm calling Hunt County every day. I know it because I know when he came to my rescue. He came from the time I called, between the time I called my cousin and the time my phone hung up. So I know the time frame. Time frame. They could never tell me who it was. I said, "You know who it is. You record those things. I know." And so, um, 5 days after 8 days, because I was out of the hospital, and people at the university knew I was looking for him because um, Amy Basson's husband is a fire chief, and so I'm coming. Hey, help me! I need to find this guy, because I also had a business card and showed it to him. He knew how to find me, and um, when we got the car back, because they left the car there. When they got the car back, Colin said, "The business card is in the car." I'm like, "Right." And so he flipped it over. He was smart enough to write my cousin's phone number on the card, because you could see it on the dash. And so um, he called and checked on me. And one of the staff members got the call. She called me and said, "You cannot believe this. The guy who came to your rescue called and checked on you." I said, "Wow, what's his name?" So he got the number. He lived in Richardson. So I called him. And my first comment was, "From this day forward, you remember my family and you have nothing to say about it." And here's what he said. He said, "You need to know 3 things. Number one, I was not supposed to be in Cattle Mills that day. I teach a music class. He was a music student at A&M Commerce.
Wow.
I teach a class, but nobody was there, and so I subbed them." He said, "Number two, had I done everything that I always do when I fill up my truck, I put the nozzle in, I get back in the cab." He said, "But today, something made me go in front of my truck." He said, "And that's the only way I saw you." He said, "So I'm convinced God sent me there to save you." And here's what's really so not coincidental, because I don't believe in coincidence. He had medical background. He said, when I came to the car, I knew you were having a stroke.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And so um, I'm off track now. But I knew that I needed some help. I was in rehab. I was blessed. I went to Tom Landry Center for 8 weeks, 9 weeks. I went 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, because I couldn't write. I couldn't do any of that. Um, my balance was off. My cognition was and still off a little bit. And um, when I went back to work, I wondered how long I could work because I didn't know. And so one day I had a panic attack. It was gripping. And so I did everything I could to calm myself down. I couldn't. I went to the counseling center, talked to one of the counselors, and lo and behold, one of your good friends, Julian, came and sat with me. And I didn't know his background either. But he sat with me and he knew what was going on.
Yeah, he did.
I went back to the office. Um, One of my good friends, professors came in and sat, talked to me. And what's so odd that day, a lot of people came in who had not seen me. And I told the story, and I simply cried all day long. And I was such a wreck. I didn't think I could drive home. And so I finally got enough strength, drove home, took something to go to sleep. And the next day I said, I can't go back to work like this. I got to go to the doctor. So when I went to the doctor, he said, I think you became chemically imbalanced. And so, because I cried all the time, he put me on an antidepressant and he put me on something for anxiety. Um, I'll fast forward. Um, Something happened. My story was picked up by the East Texan, the university newsletter, the newspaper, and it went on Facebook. And so I got home and I was looking at all the Facebook page or the comments. All the comments were to Noel, the young man who came to my rescue. And so I called Noel and I said, Noel, have you seen Facebook? I mean, it went on and on and on and on. And we both were crying. And so when I got off the phone, I said, my tears, not tears of sadness, my tears are tears of joy. So I called the doctor and said, Doc, I'm not depressed. The drug you gave me for the depression, no sir, I'm done with
This
it.
is happiness.
Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
because I didn't know. I'd never been in that place. And so to this day, because of the second stroke, I've always had meds for my anxiety, but I was only taking a fourth of it a day because I could manage it. But after this stroke, my anxiety is it's a little more intense. And so um, I wouldn't take the medication because I didn't want to get addicted to it.
Yeah.
But duh, duh, the pill is only half a milligram. I'm supposed to take two a day. One half was plus one half is 1 milligram. And my brain didn't get, I'm like, dude, you're not going to get addicted on 1 milligram. And so I take the meds. It helps me, but I needed help dealing with, I struggle with social anxiety now. Um, I really have to slow down and over articulate because my face is still a little numb because of the stroke. Um, um, I didn't have any rehab after the second stroke because, well, I ended up having speech therapy because I always thought I needed it. I didn't qualify, but they got me 8 sessions in before they rejected me. So I have exercises that I do, but I realize that I am an emotional being, and so I'm actually surprised that I'm getting through this without crying because I just am wired that way. I love people. I love life. I, I don't know where that came from, other than that's just part of my personality.
Yeah.
If I see somebody in pain, I pain. And so I accept that's who I am. I was at an event Saturday night, and Noel, the young man who came to my rescue, was there, and I introduced him. And as soon as I did, I said, "Okay, here we go." So I had to stop, and I just held it together, and I'm not embarrassed by it at all because it's who I am. I'm also a real strong man. Uh, if you if you bother somebody that I love, you will see a side of me. You won't know that side.
You don't want to know
You
it.
won't,
You don't
yeah,
want to know it.
yeah. I'll step over into another realm when that happens. But on a daily basis, I'm calm. Um, I have to work to make sure that I'm not judgmental of other people because I have my own thoughts. Something happened just yesterday that humbled me, and I said, "How dare you?" I went to get some pick up pick up some food, and so I stopped. I don't like playing the lotto, but I stopped and got a scratch off. And so as I'm coming out, this lady's looking at me and said, "Oh God, she's going to ask me for some money." But here's what she said. She said, "Good luck." And when I got in the car, I said, "Shame on you. You judged her. Who do you think you are? You're saved by grace. You're judging people. Who are you?" And so um, that being vulnerable, being strong, they go hand in hand. I am strong, but I am so also uh, I'm human.
That's right.
And unfortunately, we have a lot of people who don't get in touch with those emotions, and that's why you see so many people violating other people and breaking the law and killing people, and they just they're lost. And
Yeah.
I can't do that.
I think going back a little bit to what you said, it's something really powerful. Whether you admit it to yourself that you need help, I
Yeah,
think that's
yeah,
huge.
yeah,
Coming especially again talking about the population, and we're talking about
yeah,
minority males.
yeah,
It's so hard for us
yeah,
to get to that point,
yeah,
to be able to hit rock bottom and be finally able to say, okay,
yeah,
I need somebody to help me out.
yeah,
I finally need somebody,
yeah,
and let go of that ego,
yeah,
that I don't know background or mentality how we were raised
yeah,
that's pushing us back from asking for help.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think that's a powerful moment. And then going back to the young man and him being there in that moment, one of the things that we talked about previously is having that guardian angel
yeah,
at all point in
yeah,
times,
yeah,
regardless of who it might be.
yeah,
You never know when they're going to appear
yeah,
or where you're going to have somebody
oh, yeah.
that you're going to meet and they're going to change your life
That's right.
completely.
Yeah, my old pastor would say, "When I'm drowning, I don't care who saves me." Yeah, yeah, and so it's
I think it also speaks to your level of empathy
Yeah.
for feeling for
yeah,
others,
yeah,
and I like to think that many of us have that same characteristic
yeah,
that we don't want those that we love to hurt.
yeah,
Um, you can hurt me,
yeah,
and I think I can handle it.
yeah,
don't hurt the people that
Oh
I'm
no.
here to
Oh no.
protect
No.
and love.
No. No.
And that's when you talk about that balance of, listen, I have a soft side to me, and I
Right.
can be vulnerable,
Yeah.
but also
Don't confuse that with being weak or yeah.
let's
Yeah.
not
Oh
get
yeah.
that
Yeah.
confused.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's part of, for many of us, our definition of and difficulty of what is a man.
Yeah.
I don't know that I can write it down.
Yeah.
But for me, it leans along these paths for most of it, and then there's this moment where I allow myself to have a little asterisk to say, unless of course
Yeah.
you do this.
Yeah.
And I talk about it all the time. I like to think I'm the nicest guy I know.
Yeah.
Anyways, I like to think I'm a nice
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
And then of course, um, an incident happens at your child's school or to
Yeah.
someone you love, and you don't worry about the politics
Yeah.
of a statement or an email or a conversation that may or may not hurt someone's feelings.
Yeah.
That's the least of your concerns.
Yeah. It is.
The
Yeah.
beautiful analogy you said was, when I'm drowning, I don't care who saves me.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's
Yeah.
beautiful. Did
Yeah.
you want to ask some traditional questions?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, pretty much hit a
I know.
lot.
I mean,
We hit a lot of it with you talking about it, but I think one of the biggest things that we want to get out of it as well is how, for you, this actual experience, how did that shape who you became and who you are now,
Yeah.
and what kind of legacy you want to leave behind? I think
Yeah.
we live life one way,
Yeah.
but once we start thinking about
Yeah.
our last 30 days, which what the podcast is, or having an experience like this, I think that triggers something in us to be like, okay, you know what? Let me look back a little bit. What have I done? What
Yeah.
do I want to leave behind,
Yeah.
and where do I
Yeah.
want to go from now?
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
for us, it's a scenario, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But for people listening, for you, it's not a scenario.
Yeah.
It's your
Yeah.
real life. You had an opportunity where, and which I would even say you're lucky to even ask for a wish.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Some people in their last moments,
Yeah.
they just
Yeah.
transition,
yeah,
Yeah.
and they transition alone, or whatever the situation is. But and so, on Caesar's point, can you talk about the legacy and
Yeah.
how that impacted you and
Yeah.
what you do different, and maybe advice you would give to 50-year-old
to
guy,
what?
a 20-year-old guy,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
anyone listening.
Yeah. I think my fear of death is, did I do everything that God put me on the earth to do? Have I done everything you wanted me to do? And to this point, I say probably not. I mean, you can't work your way. You can't work your way into heaven. Have I been empathetic enough? Have I been have I provided food when somebody was hungry, shelter when they needed shelter? Have I done to what we call have I done service to what we call the least, the last, and the lost? Have I done that? And so my wife is worried about me. She said, "You help everybody. I I I fear for you sometimes because somebody may take advantage of you." Um, I have a real good antenna, and my antenna said, "Oh no, I don't
Yeah.
think so. That one doesn't feel right." And so, um, I just want to be the best person I can be every single heartbeat. I changed my philosophy after I had the stroke because my stroke was a heartbeat. My heart beat and sent plaque to my brain. And so I used to say, I live one day at a time. I live one heartbeat at a time. And so I cherish each heartbeat. Um, I really work to make sure that I'm observant enough because somebody could, like Noel Sutton, somebody could need my help, and I'm just oblivious to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's an old song we grew up in church saying, if I can help somebody along the way. The long story is that, has my living been in vain? And for me, I was born to lead this earth saying, of feeling that I help somebody, and I know that in our business, you help somebody, they help somebody, they help somebody. It just happens. That help is shared exponentially. You just don't know it. And so I would say just live in the moment. For me, that's why my anxiety kicks in. My anxiety kicks in because I'm thinking of something that's not there yet. I'm not there. They right here. They in this moment, and that's all you have.
Yeah.
And so, living in the moment, being accessible and available. All of a sudden was available, and this whole death thing. When I leave here, I'm going to the cemetery. And what's so interesting about those four people who were there side by side, they all four had an impact on me. Different,
Mm-hmm.
but they had impact. Um, when I die, my wife and I have chosen to. I carry it in my car. It's in my pocket right now, and there's a card right behind my license. We are a part of the um, oh, UT with Southwestern Medical School wheeled body program. So our bodies are going to be wheeled to the med school, and they'll do whatever they need to do. They'll cremate me, and they'll call my wife and say, "Okay, we've got the urn. You want to come pick it up? You want to send it?" Because, and I've gone to my past and said, "Okay, is any wrong? Any issues? I mean, we've been cremated. So, we don't think so.
Yeah.
We don't find anything. And so I want to at least, even in my death, be of value to somebody. And so a legacy is um, did you make the world a better place? Is the world better as a result of you being on this earth? Is it not? And so I pray that I leave the world better by making life better for one person at a time. Yeah, I'm not that influential. I can, you know, affect a lot of people, but I just try to do one person.
I would disagree with you there, sir. You've been a mentor of mine for many years, and on many days, um, being able to stop by your office, and
Yeah,
I know that you were busy. I know everyone's busy,
yeah,
and I started the conversation with I need 10 minutes of your time.
yeah. What is it?
Take all the time you need.
What does
What's
it?
going on? What do you?
What does it cost you to listen to somebody? Because in the process, I'm learning something about me as well. Yeah.
And I was learning too because I was making myself available for students, and that's a lot of energy that you take
Oh yeah.
on,
Mm-hmm.
and it's heavy.
Yeah.
And when you help, particularly students of color, the barriers that many face can feel so overwhelming,
Yeah.
and you want to release some
Yeah.
of that
Yeah.
pressure and pain from them. But if it's something, and you take it from them, you're now
Yeah.
holding
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And I didn't always know how to go home and not continue to carry
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
that's where
Yeah.
we put ourselves in a
Oh,
bind.
yeah. Yep.
And
Yeah.
that's true every
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, what what song will they play for you at your service?
Uh, I don't know. My wife has already told me you have to write your obit. Haven't done it, but I've bullet pointed it, and so because she said, I will I will be so torn up. I will be a basket case. I can't do anything. So um, I don't think there's any one particular song. I've thought about that. Um, I love jazz, and the question is,
Will they play?
what they play today? But I want nothing sad because um, I'll be gone, and that ceremony is for the living, not for the 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 deceased. And so I want something uplifting. I haven't given it a lot of thought. I might need to tell her no sad songs.
Yeah.
Um, I went to an interesting funeral. One of my friends who died, fraternity brother, good friend, he died, and I went to the funeral. He was a music. He was a band director. All they did was sing a song. There was nothing. There was no eulogy. There was nothing. They just hymn number 135. That's all the ceremony was nothing but music. And I thought, how interesting. And so,
So we talk about often, right, the impact of music
yeah.
and what it
Oh
means,
man. Yeah.
and what a song does
Yeah.
to our soul and
Yeah.
to our being,
Yeah. Yeah.
and couples have their song or
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
songs,
Yeah.
and moments have a
Yeah.
song,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's why we ask.
Yeah.
We know that we're, but also jazz in
Oh
itself
yeah.
is just it's just something different for
Yeah.
your body and your
Yeah.
soul.
Yeah. Carolyn and I, we have a song. We have a favorite song, but I don't think they can play it in church. I don't know. We can. It's a song by SWV.
I
Um,
get so weak,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
weak. That's the
And
system
we,
of
yeah,
voices.
and yeah, we started
Oh,
dating.
what a great song!
We just loved that song, and we got married. We danced on that song, and my I don't know if they'll play that in the church.
But what a great song!
Yeah, yeah,
I love that
yeah,
song.
yeah. I get weak in the knees. Yeah, yeah,
I can hardly speak.
yeah. That's right.
Oh my word!
Yeah, yeah.
Oh
So
man, they wrote a song
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
Who Caesar had one of his questions was if you had a traditional ceremony and you have six
Oh yeah.
pallbearers,
Wow.
who lowers you into that ground? It gives you that last nod of respect.
Um, that's a little difficult for me because um, I have a lot of friends who would feel left out if they weren't a part of it, and I have family who are like my cousins, all my male cousins and female. They're like my brothers and sisters. Um, so if I had a formal funeral, I would probably have honor because I've seen it honorary pallbearers, and that would be family because I probably wouldn't want family doing that, but they would be friends. Um, guy that I grew up with who called me this morning. He was a year older than me. Um, would probably be my lifelong friends. I have a good friend that, this is so crazy. We went to kindergarten together. We went to elementary school together. Went to junior high school. Well, I saw him almost every day for 12 years. Even when we were on weekend, we'd see each other. When we graduated from high school, when we graduated from kindergarten, we led out our kindergarten class because we sang in the choir when we lined up for baccalaureate and for uh, for high school. We lined up and led the class out again, and we both said,
Wow.
"We did this 12 years ago." And so, yeah, and I saw him last week. He's one of my best friends, one best. They would probably be old friends of mine that I grew up with including maybe some um, fraternity brothers. And get this, one of my best friends is a guy named Rafael Rodriguez. Bernard and I went to visit him. We met him the summer before in ninth grade, and he's like my brother. Yeah, we went to high school together. We keep with each other
Still friends to this day.
all these years. And so we went to visit him. So it would be a combination of family as honorary pallbearers, and a combination of friends. And I'd be dead though, because I wouldn't care. But um, I've been through that process before, and well, I only had one sibling who passed. My aunt, when she died, we chosen pallbearers that were people that she knew, mostly friends of mine that that been by the house, and she fed them, and so uh, that's a difficult question. Yeah,
What's the What's the last line of your obituary gonna say?
I would always say this. Um, I've always said this. Uh, this man had fun because life is so, it's difficult enough. We got enough weird stuff going on in the world, but I can find laughter in the midst of a storm. Um, Sometimes um, I'll have a look on my face and somebody said, "What are you thinking about?" I can't tell you. Gotta keep it to myself.
But I think it also speaks to the the I guess privilege of being loved and being able to love.
Yeah, yeah,
If my concern was love, I don't know if I could laugh.
yeah, yeah. You said something. Trying to organize my little workspace at home, and when I had the stroke, I was overwhelmed with love. I was so overwhelmed, I cried all the time. That's why I thought I was depressed. Um, my wife, when anybody came to the hospital, she'd make them sign a book. And after doing rehab, when I could finally write, we sent cards to everybody who came to see me. And the only thing I could write was much love and my name. But and so I still end my emails sometimes with that. Um, Even when I was at work, I know people like that's not a professional thing to say, but you know what? It's my email, so what
Listen,
you want to
listen,
do?
listen.
So I was overwhelmed with love, and it's so awesome to reciprocate. Because one young lady, she's East Texas when I was there. Her name is Derryle. Her husband and I were best of friends, and he's a member of Omega Psi Phi, another fraternity. And I have no idea how we became such good friends, but her handwriting is so beautiful. She sent me a card and she wrote all the way through it. And every time I see it, it brings me to tears. And he recently had some medical issues, and I said, oh, gotta go. So I went to visit him at the hospital. I called them. We sent them some stuff because they were so kind to me, and they didn't have to be.
Yeah.
And so that whole love thing is what you really don't know what people think about you. You think you know, their behavior will tell you. But I got so much love from I got love from the people that love me. Those who didn't, I got nothing from them. And I got it. I get that. You don't process in love like I do. But
That's right.
yeah. But if something were to happen to you this evening and you ended up in the hospital, I'm there.
And I know that's not a scenario. When when my mom passed, I'm looking back and
Yeah, we were there. Yeah, because I just feel that you have to be there. Yeah, you just.
yeah. At the moment, you can't really talk or process,
No.
but I mean, I've thought about it every day since then,
Yeah,
and I'm appreciative.
yeah,
I'm appreciative of the love, the respect.
yeah.
This whole podcast is us talking to men about being men, but the truth of the matter is we're nothing without the women in
Oh,
our
yeah.
life.
Oh,
We're
no.
absolutely
Oh,
nothing.
nothing.
Absolutely.
And
Nothing.
this is not a program or podcast that is here to and only uplift men. We acknowledge that
Yeah,
without those women,
yeah.
I don't know that I would even want to live,
No,
sir.
no,
To be very clear,
no.
and we started this conversation in your visit today with talking about your mom's transition
Yeah,
you were 4 years old,
yeah,
and I wonder if that short period of love reinforced
yeah,
who you are as a
yeah,
man and how you show
yeah,
love
yeah,
and the reverence you have
yeah,
for your spouse
yeah,
and everyone else.
yeah. Women have played a key role in my life. Um, at 4 years old, my birthday's in May. She died the following month. She died. I was 4 years.
Just turned 4.
What I tell people all the time, because I tell them what I remember. And my brother used to say, "How do you remember that?" I'm like, I just do. I remember not being able to go outside and play until I could tie my shoe. I couldn't tie the double bow. I could only tie a single bow. And she said, okay. And she would let me finish it. I'd try. I couldn't do it. She'd finish it. She said, okay, and go play. Um, I remember, this is crazy, that Underwood devil ham, that nasty stuff. Yeah. She called it cat tongue. Yeah. You want some cat tongue? Yeah. Uh, I remember she died of cancer. I can remember her moaning in the night with pain. Uh, I remember the day she died. I remember something my brother did. There was a fire, and my brother and his friends went in and drug this man out. We were dragging out furniture, and he said, "How do you remember? How do you remember that?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm looking right at you. I'm looking out the window." And so I tell people, you think kids that age won't remember. Oh, yes, they will. Because I'm
Mm-hmm.
not that special. And I remember. And so my grandmother, um, my cousin always said, she doted on you. I said, well, she gave me what I needed. Because she never spoke louder than a whisper. Um, I didn't get many whippings. She could just sit and talk to me and say, you disappoint me when you did. I'd rather she whip me than tell me that. And so I never wanted to embarrass her. And because I knew about death so early, I always worried about she and my grandfather. Death became my nemesis. You know, if I was at school and I heard an ambulance in the neighborhood, I'm like, okay, it was at my house, and so maybe you hit up on something that I became sensitive to that. But the women in my life, my aunts, have been just amazing. They just love me unconditionally. Um, my grandmother wanted me to grow up and make sure that I didn't have to depend on anybody. She said, if something were to happen to us, I would not want you to be a burden on anybody. So I learned how to cook. So even sew in a sewing machine because
Right.
that's what she wanted to learn.
That's right.
My grandfather was you name it, mechanical stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I could do it because they wanted to make sure that I was prepared for life. But women have always played a significant role in my life. I know that um, women have been discriminated against and abused and more, you name it. And so I'm real sensitive to that. Um, and I can pick up something that my wife says, how did you pick that up? I can pick up something with an exchange with the females or get to know them if they have been. I don't want to use the word abuse. I can pick up something that, and I've done it with several people, and my wife will say, "How did you pick that up?" "Hmm, I just did, and I worked in an all female environment for
Mm-hmm.
5 years, working in girls' team, and
Mm-hmm.
so I could see sadness in the kids' eye, or something that's
Mm-hmm.
something I could pick up. So,
Well,
um,
it's the balance you talked about, right? It's
yeah,
the theme of your life
yeah,
is I have a level of awareness, acuity. I can be soft, if you will,
yeah,
and I can be hard.
yeah, yeah,
Which version of
yeah.
me do
I
you
know.
need?
Yeah, I
You
know.
know,
I
but
know.
in no way does it mean any more or less
Yeah,
of a man,
I know.
right? And so for anyone listening, that's if that's true for you as well.
Yeah,
There's no level that you must be at or cannot be at
yeah,
in order
yeah,
to believe that you are
yeah,
in this privileged group,
yeah.
and also acknowledging that whether your mom, your sister, your spouse, your daughter, um, the beauty of being able to love a woman
Oh yeah,
and protect a woman, or to be protected by a woman,
yeah,
to be loved by a
yeah,
woman, is so special.
yeah.
And I'm lucky that I knew my mom's love for many years, almost 50 years, and Caesar, your mom is still here, and you still have a wonderful relationship. But we acknowledge that not everyone does have a
Yeah,
great relation with
yeah,
their mom, and
yeah,
perhaps they cannot.
yeah,
And we're lucky
yeah.
that we knew love.
And that was a barometer that I used in my dating years. If you didn't get along with your brother,
Come on now,
I gotta
some
go.
ain't right. I,
Bye bye.
listen, some may not be right. You don't love your mama.
Yeah,
You don't respect your
yeah,
mama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No matter what she did or what
Not in these
yeah.
cultures.
No.
Mm-mm.
No. Yeah. You have to
No,
love
I've
them.
seen it.
No matter how much you disagree or
Yeah.
don't like what they said, you gotta be
The response should just be yes,
yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, yeah.
That's pretty
That's
much
it.
that is it there.
That's
Yeah.
it. That is so weird. Quick comment. I saw this guy one day. I'm on campus going to a meeting. I'm in a rush. And so it kind of helps. I don't pass anybody without looking them in the eye. If I'm just walking, I just don't.
Mm-hmm.
I worked in, in an environment with juvenile delinquent boys. You better look them in the eye. You better watch.
I see
Yeah,
you, and
yeah.
you see me.
You better be.
Yeah, but I'm headed to a meeting, and this guy's coming toward me, and he's looking at me. I'm like, oh man, here's a student that I must know. I forgot his name because I'm notorious for forgetting. And so I speak to him. He speaks to me. I said, how you doing? I said, fine. And he has on a leather jacket. I said, where's the jacket from? He said, I don't know. I said, whose jacket is it? He said, it's my dad's jacket. I said, okay. Point number one. I said, so where you going? He said, I don't really know. I said, are you okay? He said, I don't know. I said, okay. Since you don't know where you're going and you're not okay, why don't you go with me? Took him to my office and we sat there and we talked. And so I got him over to the counseling center. And I waited till later on that day. I called and said, did that turn out okay? They said, oh man, did you catch him at the right time? He was thinking about ending his life. And so you just never know. You what would they say? You that just came out of a storm, you're currently in one, or one's headed your way. So you never know what people are going through. That's why be kind. Yeah, you just never know.
I'm gonna have to agree. I think that we talk about it often. It's like, what does it cost to be nice to each other and to just understand that maybe it wasn't even. In fact, it wasn't even meant for you.
Yeah.
You know, they passed you up and flipped you off anyway.
Yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, you know, and but you know, chase the person down and seek
Yeah.
that revenge.
Yeah.
It's not going to get you where you think it's
No,
going to get you.
not at all.
You know,
Yeah, you catch more bees with honey than you do with vinegar. So
absolutely.
yeah,
In in our closing moments, I wanted to ask if you'll share one last bit of advice for us. You know, and we don't know how long we have.
yeah,
The scenario is 30 days, right? To force a conversation.
yeah,
But the truth is, we could be gone tonight,
right,
tomorrow,
yeah,
or we could live another 20, 30
that's
years.
right.
If, if in fact, one day, and this is just now a testimony, it's
Right,
now just something for your spouse and
yeah,
your friends that look to like, I want to hear his voice one last time.
yeah,
I want to hear one last bit of advice.
mm-hmm.
And can you share just that last bit of information and love and advice
Yeah,
for us? I think about the same thing. I think why we take this so seriously is one day when we're not here,
Mm-hmm.
and my
mm-hmm.
children who are
Mm-hmm.
20, soon to be 28, 22, and 11, and they're 30 or 40 years old, and they
Yeah,
can
yeah,
click on this and say,
yeah,
where was my dad at this time?
yeah. I find that so interesting because I have not done it, but I do have some software now. I plan to leave a video for my nephew, my niece, my wife, my cousins, as many as I can and just leave a little flash drive. Here's what I wanted you to know. Uh, I think it is so key that we tell people how much we love them. Um, at a situation where a family member, a family member left me in their wheel. I had no idea. Her daughters, who are my cousins, said, "You didn't know how much she loved you?" I did, but it's hard for me to comprehend how she loves. I only know how I love. And so, uh, if I had only 30 days to live and I knew that, I would ensure that to tell people that live life one heartbeat at a time, live in the moment, know that this life is not about you, it's about your service to others. Um, be kind, be patient, show love in ways that that person can understand. I was married before. My ex-wife told me one time, "You didn't love me the way that I wanted to be loved." I didn't comprehend that, and so I love you the way that I can. And if you can't comprehend it, then unfortunately you can't. But the words are strong enough that I love you. Those are powerful words. Um, my family knows. They already know how I feel because I don't ever not tell them. I talked to my cousin this morning. The cousin I'm talking to on the phone when I had the stroke, he he passed a couple of years ago. His daughter, I become her surrogate dad. We talked this morning, and she said she wished me happy birthday, and I said, "Love you, girl." She said, "I love you too." I don't use that word lightly because um, my wife says when you think he's kidding, when he says something and you think he's joking, that's when he's most serious. Because I see people and I'll say, "Hey, Dr. Fred, how you doing?" "You're my man." And she'll say, "He really means it." I'm just not, because if I didn't mean it, I wouldn't say it.
Right.
Um, I would say be the best person that you can be because you never know how you're going to affect somebody else's life. You can save somebody's life, and I'll put it a different way. I know that you can impact somebody's life and you never say a word to them. They watch your behavior. And like a friend of mine said, somebody's always watching.
And somebody's
Always watching. And so I've had students tell me, "Miss Peace, I saw you," and I really. And so the question is, was my living in vain? Did I do anything to help somebody? And like my Darlin Button, who was at the university, who was the board chair of one of these Texas State University, would always say, "You owe a debt that you can never repay." So my goal in life is to repay a debt that somebody paid a long time ago for me. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you. You know, I'm appreciative.
Yeah.
I really want to believe that our friends and colleagues who will be listening in are going to get an understanding of of respect,
Right.
of love, and you know, an appreciation for you. When you said, the last words on your obituary is, "This man had fun,"
Yeah.
and that speaks volumes to what we're trying to do. We take all of this serious, but
Yeah.
at the same time, we're just trying to have fun.
Yeah.
We want to we want to enjoy life,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
think you have enjoyed life, and you've had those moments where you have to give respect to the people around you who have lifted you up
Yeah.
figuratively
Yeah.
and in fact
Yeah.
in practice.
Yeah.
The timing of these mysterious things
Yeah.
that save your life.
Yeah.
And I think about it all the time is you get to work and you're like, 12 minutes late, it's ridiculous, and this, that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know that had you left on time,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe you would have
Yeah.
never got to work.
That's right.
You don't know. And, Caesar talks about having angels and people um, uh, who are not on earth physically,
Right.
but are,
Yeah. Yeah.
and take care of him. And so
Yeah.
it's those moments that we think to just slow it down and give thanks.
Yeah.
This when I told Mr. Peace, I said, "Oh my goodness, I didn't know it was your birthday," and I almost feel bad. And before I could even say that, he said, "Every day is my birthday. Every day is our
Yeah.
birthday."
It is.
And I think I think that means that every day we're given a new
That's right.
opportunity.
Yeah.
Whoever we were,
Yeah.
whoever you were the day before your stroke,
Yeah.
is not who you are anymore.
No. No.
It cannot be true.
No. Mm-mm.
Who I was before this impactful event is not who you are
Yeah.
after. And I think that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to get men to talk about, to be vulnerable.
Right.
That's another level
Yeah.
of vulnerability that you
Yeah.
spoke about today.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Yeah.
We're appreciative, and thank you all for listening and for being a part of this journey as well. Thank you, Mr. Peace.
Yeah, thank you again, Space.
I
Thank
love
you.
you, man.
Thank you.
I
Love
really
you.
do.
Love you. Thank you.
Thank you,
So
guys.
appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.